What's up, everybody? It's Gone, and today we'll be looking at my 2022 MLB Playoff Predictions. Last year, we got a ton of stuff wrong, but hey, that's baseball, and I'll be looking for some redemption this year. However, this year will be the hardest one yet, as an expanded playoff format that includes 3 wildcard teams will mean that we'll have to predict on more series. For those who aren't caught up with the new playoff format, the 3rd seed and the 6th seed will play each other, as well as the 4th and 5th seed. The 1st and 2nd seeds will get a first-round bye of sorts, and in a 3-game series, all 3 games will be played at the higher seeds ballpark. These predictions will go over key matchups for both teams and what I think the series will end in. However, baseball is by far the most volatile postseason, so I do not expect that all of these will turn out right. But before we get on to the video, could you guys please hit the like and subscribe button? Currently, only 3% of people who watch my videos are subscribed, so if y'all do, not only would it help me grow my channel, but it also encourages me to create more videos like this one for you guys. And without further ado, let's get on with the video. Starting with the AL wildcard slate, and first we have the AL Central champion Cleveland Guardians facing off against the final wildcard team in the Tampa Bay Rays. The regular season head-to-head went to the Guardians 4-2. This matchup's turning point rests on the 3 pitchers going for each team, in Shane Bieber, Tristan McKenzie, and Cal Quantrill versus Shane McClanahan, Corey Kluber, and Tyler Glasnow. The key for the Rays will have to be to push this to a 3-game series and give the ball to Glasnow on that 3rd day. I know that he hasn't pitched much this season, but in 2 tune-up starts he's been good, pitching to a 1.35 ERA. I wouldn't be surprised if he pitched Game 2 if the Rays were to lose Game 1. The key here for the Guardians is to capitalize off of Bieber and McKenzie's starts. Provide run support early on and let these pitchers ease into the game while trying to get into that Rays bullpen as fast as possible, which has seen good stories but does not have the depth it once had. The top of their rotation and their bullpen is arguably better than the Rays, so the Guardians have their bats wake up early in this series. Although so much can happen in a 3-game series, I think the Guardians have been playing great baseball recently, and frankly, their team is better, so I gotta go with the Guardians in 2 games. Next up, we have the 4-5 matchup in the Toronto Blue Jays versus the Seattle Mariners. The regular season head-to-head went to the Mariners 5-2, but take that with a grain of salt, as it was a roller coaster for each team to get here, and really, the winner of this series solely depends on which team is hot at that moment. This series' X factor will be the power hitters besides Julio Rodriguez in Eugenio Suarez, Mitch Haniger, and Carlos Santana. The Blue Jays pitching has been well below the league average at preventing the long ball. In fact, the bullpen has been the worst in the league and has given up the most home runs this year. The Mariners must capitalize off of this and provide Julio with some protection in the middle of that lineup. The Blue Jays' key to success is simple, and that is to get hot, especially within their lineup. We've seen what Bo can do when he's on, and we hope that translates into the playoffs, but I need to see more from Vladimir Guerrero Jr. and Teoscar Hernandez in order to truly believe that this team has a chance. However, this Blue Jay season has been so up and down, and although I'm scared of the Mariners' record against teams over 500, I'm going to go with them in 3 games. Now moving into the National League wildcard matchups, first we have the 3-seeded St. Louis Cardinals versus the Philadelphia Phillies. Although you could argue that no one wants to play in Rogers Center, especially during the playoffs, this is one of the few matchups where the Cardinals have a clear home field advantage with the loud Busch Stadium behind them. The key for this series, if you're the Philadelphia Phillies, is you gotta have Nola and Wheeler pitch deep into games and preferably win it in 2. The bullpen and overall team ERA outside of those 2 is really too inconsistent to rely on in the playoffs. For the Cardinals, you want to exploit that. See a lot of pitches early in the ballgame, draw your walks, and get into that pen where life should be easier. In fact, this is a really bad matchup for the Phillies, as the Cardinals have such a deep lineup that there's no easy outs where a starter could save pitches on. Every single batter has a threat where they can take you deep while drawing their walks and see pitches. The Phillies, in my opinion, would have a better chance of playing the Dodgers with a less deep lineup, and I don't see this being a series. The St. Louis Cardinals win in 2 games. Now to the last of the wildcard slates, we have the New York Mets at home facing the San Diego Padres. The X factor in this matchup will be Manny Machado, and if he can still carry this team on his back like he's been doing the entire regular season. Besides Manny, this team is objectively worse, and the only player you can realistically hope for that will will the Padres to a win would be Juan Soto. Otherwise, DeGrom and Scherzer, a deadly 1-2 combo, should be able to breeze through this series relatively fast. However, I do see an opening for the Padres to possibly steal this series. DeGrom hasn't really pitched deep into games this season, so the Padres could knock him out after the 5th or 6th inning and capitalize in the 7th and 8th inning before Edwin Diaz comes in. Meanwhile, Scherzer has been really good this year, but has the occasional start where he gives up 4 or 5 runs. The Padres need it to be this game. However, all hinges on their pitching being lights out, which they certainly have the capability to do with Joe Musgrove and Yu Darvish, but too many things have to break right for the Padres to win this series, and I see their bats getting shut down and New York winning in 2 games. Now that we finished all the wildcard series, we can finally move on to the divisional round, where first we have the Cleveland Guardians and the New York Yankees. Despite what it may look like, this series will be closer than many people think. The Guardians have been red hot recently, and the Yankees have seen their ups and downs. The key for this series will be the Yankees' bullpen and whether they can stay up to par with the Guardians' elite 1-2 punch in James Karinchak and Emmanuel Clase. Both teams should see their fair share of offense, and I wouldn't be surprised for there to be a couple of blowouts in this series, despite the good pitching that both teams have. Aaron Judge needs to keep hitting like he did in the regular season, and we need to see vintage playoff performances from guys like Josh Donaldson and Anthony Rizzo to keep up with J-Ram and company. This Yankees lineup has had so much depth and can beat you from anywhere, and that's why I gotta go with the New York Yankees in 5 games. This Mariners-Astros matchup is the most clear-cut out of all the divisional matchups, in my opinion at least. The Mariners played second fiddle to the Astros throughout the regular season in the AL West, going 7-12, including multiple series sweeps when the Mariners were playing their best baseball. Furthermore, after having to go through the wild card, the Mariners would not be able to play their best starters early in the series. This means a matchup where the Mariners' 3rd or 4th starter versus Justin Verlander will be Game 1. Not only can the Astros play their best starters early in this series, but Justin can also play Game 5 if it gets to that. The X factor for the Mariners will have to be the fate that has followed this team ever since the end of the last year, and there will be no explainable reason why if the Mariners won this series, other than everyone just seemed to have gone hot. However, this Astros team may be the best one yet, especially with their pitching depth, and I don't see the need for the Astros to turn to Justin again for the 2nd time in a series, as I see them winning in 4 games, led by their strong young pitching. Meanwhile, from the least competitive matchup to the most competitive one in my opinion, we have the St. Louis Cardinals versus the Atlanta Braves. These teams are very similar in terms of where they stand. Each one has an MVP candidate in a middle-of-the-order bat in Austin Riley and Paul Goldschmidt, and their lineups are deep as well, with no easy out. They both play good defense, and while Atlanta has the better pitching, St. Louis has the better bullpen. This works out for the Cardinals' favor given that they just came out of the wildcard series and cannot use their best starters for the first 2 games. Therefore, the X factor in this series will be Miles Mikolas or Adam Wainwright. One of them is going to have to pitch multiple games against a very tough Braves lineup to get this series win. Given that this is Wainwright's last postseason run, I think fate has him pitching 2 masterfully pitched games, and the Cardinals pull off the upset and win it in 5 games against the world champion Atlanta Braves. Now moving on to the New York Mets facing off against the Los Angeles Dodgers. And this is where the failure to win the division comes back to bite the Mets. They now have no longer the coveted aspect of rolling out DeGrom and Scherzer and possibly having them pitch twice in this series. These 2 lineups are comparable in that the Dodgers and Mets have deep lineups with a nice blend of elite power, speed, and contact abilities. I would argue that the Mets defense is a little bit better though. However, the pitching on early in this series is going to set the tone, which is why the X factor is Julio Urias and Tony Gonsolin in the top of that Dodgers rotation. The Dodgers know that they're going to have to get up early in this series and take a couple of games versus Taijuan Walker and others before they hit DeGrom and Scherzer in the back end. My point from the Padres note still stands about facing DeGrom and Scherzer, and The Dodgers have a higher probability than the Padres in making sure DeGrom does not pitch deep into games with a deeper lineup, and the Los Angeles Dodgers do win it in 4 games. Now, we move on to the championship series, which go on to 7 games, and first up, we have the Houston Astros and the New York Yankees. The regular season head-to-head says a lot about how this series will play out, as each game kind of had a playoff atmosphere to it. The Astros won 5 games to 2, and I think that shows the Astros' overall depth, which is superior to the Yankees. My X factor in this series will be the pitchers behind Justin Verlander, and Christian Javier and Framber Valdez for the Astros. Will they be enough to shut down Judge and Stanton? The regular season results say yes, with the Astros pitching a no-hitter. In order for the Yankees to win this series, they're going to have to need their role players to step up so they can match the depth that the Astros have. Nestor Cortez and Jose Trevino have been nice stories this year, but them and so many others will have to be dominant to even stand a chance against the Houston Astros. Yes, the Yankees will win a couple of games due to their elite level talents in Aaron Judge and Garrett Cole, but the Astros are just so strongly built, and I see them winning the series in 6 games. The National League Championship Series consists of a rematch of last year's wildcard game between the Los Angeles Dodgers and St. Louis Cardinals. However, these two teams are vastly different from where they met last season. Max Scherzer, the player that started for the Dodgers, is no longer on the team, while Paul Goldschmidt has solidified himself as an MVP candidate and is surrounded by stars and stars in the making. I worry about the Dodgers' depth in this series. Besides Gonsolin and Urias, both of which are kind of question marks anyways, who is going to pitch? Playoff Kershaw is still a thing and will need to take on a heavy workload in this series. Meanwhile, the Cardinals have a bunch of veterans in the lineup and pitching rotation, which have been there before in Montgomery, Flaherty, Michaelis, and Adam Wainwright. Like the Yankees, the Dodgers will win a couple of games as they have the high-end talent, but the Cardinals benefit from it being a longer series with their depth, and they do win it in 7 games. Now, we finally move on to the World Series matchup in the St. Louis Cardinals versus the Houston Astros. Think of all the storylines that appear from this series. The Cardinals look to end off the careers of Albert Pujols, Adam Wainwright, and Yadier Molina with an exclamation mark after illustrious careers. Meanwhile, the Astros have created a dynasty, with them making the World Series 4 times in the last 6. Furthermore, they also look to end the narrative that they can only win the World Series through a scandal. Despite what the initial gap in talent may suggest, I think this series will be closer than many people initially believe. The Cardinals have the best batter in the series in Goldie, while the Astros have the best pitcher in Verlander. Each team has the depth, and navigating the lineup is going to be difficult no matter the talent of the pitcher. St. Louis, in my opinion, has the slight edge in terms of bullpen, while the Astros have the edge in terms of starters. Their lineups are comparable. However, I worry that the NL Central being a weak division hurts the Cardinals in the long run, as they never really had to face elite competition consistently, unlike the Astros, so I'm going to have to go with them in 7 games, although I will admit that the Cardinals possibly winning a World Series would be really cool for the narratives. Thank you guys so much for watching. Remember, if you enjoyed, please like, share, and subscribe, and comment down below new video ideas. I'm going to do more off-season videos now that the regular season has come to a close. But besides that, let me know what you guys would like. Maybe like a free agents prediction, but otherwise, I don't know. I'm open to ideas though. So let me know in the comments down below. And I will see you guys in the next one.